This is 22-year-old Joseph O'Connor seeing sunlight for the first time in years, closely followed by his lawyer mother, who was willing to say anything to not see her son be extradited to the US.
He's never been arrested, he has never been in trouble, he has a very serious back injury, and his doctor has said that he shouldn't travel.
See, Joe had a secret he had been keeping from his mom. He had spent years hacking and extorting celebrities, stolen hundreds of thousands in crypto, and made quite the reputation for himself with the internet's biggest streamers under his handle, Plugwalk Joe. I want to play you a few clips, but they're not going to make a lot of sense just yet.
There's a SWAT team at my house right now, bro. I can hear them.
Emergency.
Oh, bro. Hey. It's my police. I need you to step up. Who you are?
So all these popular streamers were getting swatted right around the time that Joe did his perp walk here. And I don't want to conflate that he swatted them. He had done some swatting, but not this swatting. But one of the people that's connected to these incidents ended up getting in a call with Aiden Ross and listened to what he had to say, especially about Joe towards the end.
But bro, why would you swat me because I didn't answer your DM, bro?
No, it's not even just about that. That's funny.
How is that funny though?
You were scared for your life? You thought you were gonna die? That's funny as Wait, Aiden, can you say something for me?
What?
Can you say free Plugwalk Joe?
No, who the is that?
Nah, you know who he is. We need to free him. Free Plugwalk.
Wait, I know that. Is that the guy who like sim swap Obama?
He was on SSB World with us.
Yes, I know. Him and Rice were making a server together.
See, this is a different type of hacker culture, if you will, than what I normally cover, and Joe is infamous within these circles. It's not about the money, it's about causing havoc for the attention. So today I want to take you into this world, how Joe went from booting noobs off in Call of Duty, to breaking into the accounts of numerous celebrities where he got up to all sorts of crazy stuff, to finally making one really bad connection within these shady circles that led Uncle Sam directly to his door.
Hey, why you don't got no box for that? Like you got
Why is Joe front camera?
You just sit down?
Yo, Joe out here with the bust down, bro.
Women's self-defense is a con on the internet, so don't you women be wasting your time thinking you're going to start these new self-defense courses and you're going to knock men out. It's not happening, it's fantasy world. But anyway.
This is Joe's dad. In 1998, shortly after getting out of jail for sending razor blades in the mail, he was being charged with murdering a fellow Liverpool gangster. Except days before the trial was set to begin, the main witness disappeared, and so the charges were dropped. Now, this was all making big news back then because Mr. Joe was now running for a position on the Liverpool City Council, while at the same time working as a bodyguard for the then far-right British National Party leader Nick Griffin. I get the sense that a lot of people didn't like this guy, but it's around this time that he met Joe's mom. She got pregnant with little Joe, and he was pissed. According to the court records, didn't want a kid. I can't get into the specifics here, but by the time he was born in the summer of '99, it got really bad. His mom, shortly after her boss's car was petrol bombed as retaliation for opening a custody battle over little Joe, fled to southern Spain and was able to restart her career as a lawyer. Joe apparently struggled in school here, but by 2007, his one outlet had become video games. The Game Boy got him hooked, and oh boy, by the time he got a computer, it was practically all he was doing. But then the 2008 financial crisis hit. His mom lost her job, and after living off savings for 2 years, she and Joe, now 10, returned to England looking for better prospects. But the school situation only got worse. Bullying dominated Joe's experience, and he was not performing poorly academically. Eventually switched to more or less a homeschool routine, and by 14, according to his mom, was spending 16 to 18 hours a day on his computer. What she didn't know is that Joe had been playing Call of Duty and Counter-Strike, had made quite the reputation for himself. And I want to explore this period of Joe's life because it helps us understand how he made a leap from nerdy recluse into going after the world's most popular celebrities. Okay, so Joe has done an amazing job of clearing his old online profiles off the internet for good reason, but with some creative digging and talking to the folks who knew him back then, I've pieced it all together. Around 2014, Joe got involved in a website called Game Battles. This was MLG's official online competitive gaming platform. Specifically, Joe really liked to play the Call of Duty tournaments on here. Back then, he was going under the handle Complex, or one of these derivatives of it. His Skype specifically was Complex the God, and that has a really important reference, but we'll come back to it shortly. So within the Game Battles community, Joe pretty much immediately develops a reputation as a lag switcher. Check out this video someone posted of him.
Well, I'll go host, and if we lose, I'll just like to say it's my connection fucking up.
If you didn't play Call of Duty back then, basically, if you were the host of the game lobby, you could purposely disrupt your own internet connection, and this would cause everyone else in the lobby to lag. It would give you like an unfair advantage though, because you wouldn't be lagging yourself. And so if he was losing a games battle tournament, he could do this to give himself a bit of an edge.
Whoa, whoa. Stop lag switching.
Joe was naturally also into DDoSing people. Searching his username online shows that someone uploaded a video teaching others how to change their IP address. But in the description of the video, they have it dedicated to Joe, who, quote, booted me offline for 3 months straight. This stuff was pretty common back then. For a couple of dollars on hacking forums, you could buy access to booters and knock someone's internet offline. And putting Joe's known email into Have I Been Pwned? Yeah, he was on a lot of these forums. And like many other kids on these forums, he was also making a little bit of money. We know he was selling CSGO matchmaking ready accounts. Someone would buy these to smurf or hack on. His mom even knew about this in a letter she wrote. Sadly, the YouTube and streaming accounts referenced here have since been deleted. What she didn't know is that Joe was maybe into some more risky methods. Now, I wasn't able to confirm this because I couldn't find any old posts by him, as the website has been down for years, but one of his old friends who I spoke to told me that he was on socialengineer.net, and that does line up with what we know from the Have I Been Pwned search. Now, this is a forum dedicated to social engineering. Typically on these forums, that means finding creative ways to get free things from companies. He told me that Joe was specifically into buying cracked Amazon accounts. Apparently around this time, there was an exploit on myhabit.com. This was a flash sale website owned and operated by Amazon. The bug would let you log into an Amazon account and, more importantly, see the order history without actually going through the normal login security checks that existed on Amazon.com, like getting a code to your email or phone. This made it trivial to run credential stuffing attacks, and the goal was to find accounts that had purchased expensive items like PS4s, Xbox Ones, laptops, you name it. You could then use these accounts to request replacements with a little sly bravado in the support chats. But this was the riskiest part of the process, because in most cases you were getting the fraudulent replacements mailed directly to your own house. And so other kids on the forum that would break into these accounts, find lists of them, would then sell them. And apparently Joe was buying these accounts and then using them to actually manipulate their support into sending him these items, or he would like do it for others as a service. I don't get the sense that this was a huge grift, but it does show that he was falling deeper and deeper into these communities, starting to find ways to reward himself for being a part of them, and I think that pushed his descent into his later crimes. The final thing here is that username, Complex the God. Check it out. Around this time, Woody's gamertag posted a series of videos about his hacker.
Maybe 2-3 months ago, I made a video called My Hacker's Going to Jail, and it's about Cosmo, otherwise known as Cosmo the God. He took down NASDAQ, CIA.gov, right, which is Americans' like Central Intelligence Agency. He took down UFC.com. He redirected 4chan to point to his own Twitter account. He pioneered social engineering techniques, it's coming out of the article I'm reading, to gain access to user accounts at Amazon, PayPal, and a slew of other companies. That slew of other companies includes Microsoft, because how I learned about Cosmo the first time was he stole my Xbox Live gamer tag. Somehow, I got on his radar.
Did you catch that? Cosmo the God. Cosmo was part of a group called Underground, a word I can't say here on YouTube. Cosmo was a social engineer that used his skills to wreak havoc on all sorts of companies, mainly for fun and attention. I'll do an entire video on his group at some point, so make sure to subscribe. Now, I can't know if Joe saw this video by Woody, but I'm the same age as Joe. I was also into Call of Duty, and I did, and I thought Cosmo was so cool. I even made an account ending in the God, just like Cosmo, and lots of other kids on these forums did too. And that tells me that he looked up to these hacker stories in some way, and based on what he would go on to do, wanted to be just like them. Now, there's one last thing from this period in Joe's life that caused him to abandon the Complex alias and delete these old accounts. Because come 2015, all of this was beginning to catch up with him. People didn't like him for what he was doing, and his name and address were leaked online. To quote Joe, "This was the first time I realized I was not anonymous and not simply a username, but someone who could be traced." People began showing up outside of his house, harassing him, recording it, and posting it online.
Blood War Joe! Blood War Joe!
According to Joe's testimony, once, quote, 4 people came to his door, one live streaming, another with weapons, threatening him and his mom, but they were able to chase them off with metal poles. Like, that's pretty intense, man. But I think as this stuff went on longer and longer, he became desensitized to it. He started using the handle PlugWalkJoe online everywhere, which turned out to be a really bad idea because he hadn't even really kicked off his hacking spree yet. But that was about to change. Joe, now 18, just shy of his 19th birthday, moves back to Spain with his mom. He's out of school, has no plans to pursue further education, no job, and he's spending all his time online, barely going outside. And this is when things get crazy. Come September 2018, Apple was releasing the iPhone XS, and their big marketing campaign had people hyped up. But then, over 17 million subscribers got a notification on YouTube. A new video by Logan Paul had just been uploaded, but anyone who clicked it would find something really odd. The title of the video was just giveaway, and it was only 21 seconds long, urging people to click the link in the description to claim a free iPhone. But within minutes, the video was removed. It had only got 10,000 views. And then another one pops up, titled Giving Away 1,500 iPhones. This was a much more Logan Paul inspired title, and this one stayed up for hours, gained over 100,000 views before it got deleted, and the link in the description just led to a spammy infinite ad loop website that the hackers were probably making some profit off people visiting. But it's not like this was a super sophisticated phishing campaign that actually made you think you were getting a free iPhone when you clicked. It was all a little weird. At the same time, Logan's Twitter had just been taken over, and whoever the hacker was, they were tweeting all sorts of bizarre stuff like KSI is a stranger alpha male, and this will be remembered as the day Twitter was hijacked and crashed. And then they're making a bunch of tweets asking people to follow weird accounts. And here it is, a familiar name and all of this strangeness. Follow at PlugWalkJoe and I'll, quote, drop Logan Paul's sex tape. A promising reward that no one got to watch because Logan quickly took back his accounts and deleted all of this nonsense. Joe had clearly made it into a hacking group. They clearly had a method to break into high-profile accounts, but I don't think they were putting much thought into the whole thing yet. That said, they were about to abuse this to high heaven. Speaking of stolen accounts, today's sponsor, Incogni, will protect your online data from being leaked through data brokers. Since starting to use Incogni nearly a year ago, they've deleted my data from more data brokers than I can remember. See, these companies called data aggregators collect your personal information. They know your name, phone number, relatives, medical conditions, and anything else they can get their hands on. They then sell that information to data brokers who creatively package it and sell it to the highest bidder. The worst part? They often don't care who that bidder is. Advertisers, spammers, stalkers, hackers. An obvious example of this type of abuse is the people search websites where you can buy the personal information of almost anyone. I suspect these have been used in a couple of the hacks that I've covered on my channel to steal millions of dollars from victims. And this is where Incogni comes into the picture. They use data privacy laws to take your personal information down from these data brokers. And once is never enough. They keep following up and keep insisting to make sure your data stays down. I love this because if you've seen my video on breach forms, you know there's so many hackers specifically targeting data brokers, hacking them to get their databases and then leaking them online, sometimes charging thousands of dollars. That's why it's so important to have your data removed, because once your data leaks, there's nothing you can do about it. So you want your data off of these data broker websites before that happens. I've avoided a dozen breaches because of Incogni. I've even signed my parents up now, and since using them, they're getting way less spam phone calls. I'm not so worried about them falling prey to all the crazy phishing campaigns going around because their contact information isn't ending up in these target lists. So if you're ready to take your personal data back, go to incogni.com/crumb and use code crumb to get 60% off an annual plan. That's incogni.com/crumb, code crumb. An amazing deal by an amazing company. Thank you, Incogni. Come summer 2019, Joe went on another huge hacking streak. King Bach, James Charles, Chloe Moretz, Shane Dawson, even the founder of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, all lost access to their accounts. And the hackers started spamming all this crazy stuff.
Jack on Friday got hacked. That's Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, and this is what his Twitter feed ended up looking like. From racial slurs to anti-Semitic rants, the hacker or hacker group sent out offensive tweets on Friday afternoon to over 4 million of @Jack's followers.
While celebrity news outlets were frantically researching how computer hacks work and then trying to explain that in a way that 50-year-old moms will understand, the attacks kept escalating. This time, even targeting a Twitter belonging to Etika, who had just passed away a month before, and these tweets were made having no respect for this man's death. And here it is, what we've been looking for. These shoutout tweets were the common thread between all of the hacks. Joe had got involved in a group called the Chuckling Squad, and it seemed they were willing to try anything for a little clout. When they got into Bella Thorne's Snapchat, they found nude photos, and then threatened to release them if she didn't make a video thanking the hackers and tagging all of their accounts. When she didn't immediately do that, Joe got into her Twitter, posted this nasty stuff, and then further threatened to leak those photos if 5,000 people followed him. But Bella wasn't about to go down without a fight. She managed to regain access to her accounts and just posted those photos herself, alongside all the text messages of them attempting to extort her. She took the power away from them. And after the incident, she was going and talking to news agencies, telling them about how she's engaging law enforcement and private investigators to try and find out who was behind the attack. You think that this would maybe scare Joe a little bit, but apparently not, because in the meantime, the group set their next target on TikTok stars. They took over the accounts of Addison Rae and Dixie D'Amelio, again posting their handles amongst other nonsense to a combined 100 million followers. They also somehow got this kid to start posting actual videos.
Follow Plug Walk Joe. I'ma shoot you, bitch.
The worst part about all of these attacks, Joe wasn't really even gaining many followers. Now you can see on Dixie's TikTok here, there's this one video posted of a watch with the caption, "Spread the word, Plugwalk Joe runs the comm." I'm not good with watches, but it looks like a similar one that Joe would go on to later showcase on a stream years later. Seemed that Joe maybe had a little bit of money if this thing wasn't fake. At this time, he's living in Spain alone for most of the day. His mom went back to the UK, but had hired a nanny to take care of him because according to her, he was incapable of self-care. So this nanny's buying the groceries, right? Bringing them over, maybe cooking some meals, doing some cleaning. This is when news articles start to come out. They had found out how Joe and friends were getting into all of these accounts. Even King Bach posted a video about how it happened.
It was an AT&T employee that switched my SIM card to his SIM card, and all the text messages went to his phone. He could see everything I was typing in my phone. So when I changed my password, he saw what the fuck I changed it to.
This is a classic SIM swap. You port someone's phone number over to a phone you can control, then you can go try to sign into their account, hit forgot password, you now get that text message, and you can reset the password to anything you want and log in. That's how they got into all of these celebrity accounts, but most people that do SIM swapping, they do it to get into crypto accounts, to steal hundreds of thousands of dollars, and yeah, by the way, Joe had been doing that too. It turns out, just before moving back to Spain in June 2019, before these celebrity attacks, Joe and two underage co-conspirators targeted a Manhattan-based company providing crypto wallet infrastructure services to crypto exchanges around the world. They took over the phones of the co-founder and vice president of development. From here, they got into the G Suite admin panel, which they used to access even more accounts within the company. By digging through their emails and Azure server environments, they were able to find and steal $794,000 worth of crypto. Today, this would be worth nearly $3 million. And to celebrate, they used one of the executives' Skype accounts to create a group chat with all the employees within the company and taunted them for about 2 hours for, quote, getting hacked by a group of kids. The stolen coins were subsequently laundered by sending them through a series of transactions meant to hide where they went. They must have not realized how easy it is to trace this stuff, because at the end of the blockchain was an account on Binance registered under Joe's name, to which he received his share of the spoils. Shortly after this hack, he also broke into a Coinbase account, stealing 0.5 bitcoins, a Gemini account where he stole another 1.6, and another Coinbase where he took 18 more. But he then had some sort of falling out with the other two from that big attack. He started getting death threats again. People were showing up outside of his house recording more threatening videos. His mom has now said on record that this pushed them to make that move back to Spain, but she's careful here to say that they plan to do the move regardless, because otherwise that would be running. Nevertheless, this was meant to be a wake-up call for Joe. He promised his mom that he wouldn't steal anymore. I mean, I guess technically that doesn't take the celebrity hacks I just told you about off the table. Anyways, back alone in Spain, he must have felt impervious here. Like it was safer to do this sort of stuff than it was in the UK. I mean, he even paid a press agency to have these articles written about him saying he was a crypto expert. Maybe this was meant to justify where the bitcoins were coming from, but talk about beyond reckless. this. It seems these articles were published in 2020 by looking at the view source and the published date on them, but I'm a little confused because he used like babyface pictures of himself, even though he's an adult by the time this is written. But if 2020 is right, one of the Chuckling Squad members had already been arrested, the guy who was responsible for finding the phone numbers of celebrities. So Joe knew the stakes, right? Why do it? Well, maybe this was his way to impress girls. In late June 2020, Joe had met a girl in a Discord server he hung out in often. Joe was now 21. When she told him she was 16, he responded, "Wow, you're actually really young." Despite that, within days, he was sending her explicit threats and sexual messages. So much of this I can't quote here on YouTube, but things like he wanted to, I actually really can't say this, but it's about as bad as it gets. He went on to send a photo of his genitalia, and she ended up posting this photo and screenshots of the messages to the Discord server. From what I can gather, this server was full of a bunch of comm kids. It's like other sim swappers and hackers. She also told Joe that he was going to be hacked, and he wanted revenge. So on June 25th, just 4 days after meeting her, he launched a full-on swatting campaign. First, he posted to Reddit as if she were planning a can't say it on YouTube, dude, but after making the post, he called the Garden Grove police to report it, basically tried to frame her, this teenage girl, as some kind of mass can't say it on YouTube. A few hours later, he phoned the police again, this time pretending to be a furious husband who caught his wife cheating, threatening to do all sorts of awful things with all sorts of awful weapons to guarantee a major police response. It worked. A large chunk of the police force swarmed her address, ready for an active situation. While this is going down, Joe decides it would be the perfect time to call the fire department. They get firefighters to also go to the house, adding to the chaos. And if this wasn't enough, he then emails her principal, once again posing as her, threatening to bunch of stuff I can't say on YouTube. He also posts to Reddit again, still framing her, saying that he planted a bunch of can't say it on YouTube at local restaurants. Then he calls the sheriff's department and claims that he's going to do horrible things in an airport if $60,000 isn't delivered to, you guessed it, her address. Keep in mind, this is all happening in one day. Joe was relentlessly hammering this poor girl. And because that wasn't enough, he then starts personally calling her relatives, telling him that he's going to do all these awful things to them. She eventually confronts him online, and he basically shrugs it off and said that she deserved it. Over the next few weeks, Joe even started bragging about these calls on Snapchat, openly mocking her, saying that he doxed her and that it's messed up, isn't it? You think by now someone would have stopped Joe. We're going on 2 years of very public, it's not even just hacking anymore, extortion, swatting. We know people were looking for him already. According to Brian Krebs, a private investigator from a telecom company had posed as another girl and actually got him to start doing video calls, which they were using as an attempt to track his location. I guess on video they matched a pool he had previously posted about on Instagram to one that was in the background of one of these video calls. But still, no one had busted down his door. But that was about to change because come July, Joe was going to make a really, really big mistake.
It's being called the biggest security incident in Twitter's history. Attackers targeted several high-profile accounts with thousands of followers in an apparent Bitcoin scam. Now get this, they include accounts of former President Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Bill Gates, and Tesla CEO Elon Musk. Now this is the message that appeared on Musk's Twitter. It read in part, quote, "Feeling grateful, doubling all payments sent to my BTC address." Now the tweet also had a link where people can donate.
The classic RuneScape doubling scam. Of course, those who sent their precious bitcoins received absolutely nothing. I made an entire 37-minute documentary on the guy behind this attack. Even though the amount stolen was relatively small, $117,000, this made huge international news rounds because the sheer number, over 130 high-profile accounts taken over. And the biggest question was, how did this happen and who was responsible? All fingers were initially pointing to Plugwalk Joe because just one day before the attack, he posted this picture of Twitter's back-end admin panel. This sent journalists down the rabbit hole of his history, and it made perfect sense that someone who had been hacking celebrities for years on Twitter had finally done the big dirty. The truth was, the real culprits behind this attack had actually reached out to Joe before committing it, because before abusing their access in this huge way, they were just trying to use it to sell some rare usernames. And Joe was known in the community to like rare names. He entertained them with the idea of purchasing @6 on Twitter for $10,000, but he was requesting that they show him proof that they actually actually had access to do these account takeovers. First, he asked them to make changes to the @6 profile, adding PWJ to the name and updating the account's profile picture. They did that, and then he said, hey, well, that's not enough. Like, show me how you have access to do this. And they sent him the picture of the back-end admin panel that he would then go on to post publicly. And he actually did that as kind of an FU, because it showed other people that wanted to buy those usernames that these people had breached Twitter. And in the OG username circle, that's not good because it means there's a high chance of those usernames getting clawed back once the hack is discovered versus if an insider was truly selling them. Anyways, I explained more about that in my full video. The trouble for Joe is he didn't know what was going to happen the day after he posted that. He had unknowingly advertised to the world his involvement in a major criminal breach. And now with the stories running, pointing to him as the mastermind, the damage was done. This was so effective that to this day, a lot of people still get the stories mixed up and blame Joe as being the mastermind behind the Twitter hack, but it couldn't be further from the truth. Now, I also detail more of this in my big video, but two of the kids who were actually involved in the hack more or less got tricked into giving the Times an interview about how the hack worked under the guise of clearing their names. I think they both got more jail time because of it, but nevertheless, during that interview, of course, Plugwalk Joe came up. So the Times reached out to Joe for a comment, and all he said was, I don't care, they can come arrest me, I would laugh at them, I haven't done anything. But I think for the first time, he was maybe a little scared, because we know shortly after, he actually called the React Task Force general number and left a voicemail asking them to call back, stating it was in regards to the Twitter hack and that he had nothing to do with it. React is a special task force, mainly made up of FBI agents that take on specifically technology crime. They're the ones that bust all of the SIM swappers. So a React FBI agent gave Joe a call back, and he essentially spilled all the beans about everything I just told you. The names of the people who tried to sell him the handle, the Discord name of who he thought the mastermind hacker was, this guy going under the name Kirk, and even worse, he went on to confirm with them many of his own earlier Twitter hacks as a way to say, hey, yeah, I did these ones, but I didn't do the big one. This was a really bad move. It led to the FBI directly opening an investigation for his participation in this new Twitter hack. But still, Joe was an ocean away. How were they going to catch him? In the months following the Twitter hack, no one came knocking on Joe's door. Publicly, he seemed to have calmed down. He got into Grand Theft Auto role-playing servers and eventually joined forces with RiceGum to create their own server called BTC World. How fitting. I'm not really sure how their relationship developed, but Joe was in charge of making the server and RiceGum was to promote it once finished. Every now and then, Joe and Rice would go on stream together to show off the progress.
Discord/BTC World, everything that you need is in there, and I'm not sure.
We have mad shit going on. Like, I'm doing a thing where I give it like, so you know the way people be making those like clips of them, like, you know, like the way people have phase 5 and shit. Like, I want to do like montages for this server and give like the best clip $1,000 and shit like that. So I'll be rewarding people who put in work and shit.
Yeah, Joe's fucking rich, bro.
If done right, these servers can be little cash cows, by the way. We can also see Joe in RiceGum's Discord server, and people used to speculate in here that he was taking over Instagram accounts at request. I don't believe that to be true, but clearly people knew his history. So while Joe was having the time of his life, getting friendly with all the big streamers, the FBI was working behind the scenes to build their case. It wasn't hard to find him. The first thing they did was subpoena his Twitter. The records returned this. Yeah, he had previously posted his ID with the caption, "Here are my real childhood pictures." Logs from his Snapchat found another picture of his passport, this time also including the passport number. You can't make this stuff up. Remember, this is the Twitter he was advertising on all of his big celebrity hacks. They also found that he often never used VPNs, and when he did, he would log in between hacked accounts and his known accounts without changing the location, directly linking him to those crimes. They put together a 51-page document containing all the proof they needed to secure a strong conviction. I can't stress how much evidence this is. Out of all my videos on hackers, I've never seen a criminal complaint this long. I already mentioned it, but even the big crypto hack, they traced the stolen funds to being sold on a Binance account that was registered under Joe's name. And finding his address, even in Spain, was easy. Spain is part of the 14 Eyes surveillance alliance that monitors and shares people's internet activity. So they had his real IP address, all they had to do was ask his internet service provider to share the billing details. This prompted the states to work with the Spanish National Police to run a surveillance operation on his villa. See what he did throughout the day, where he went, that sort of thing. But But they had a problem. Over the 4 months they spent watching, they never saw him once. He literally never left the apartment, never went outside. This wasn't ideal. Typically when arresting hackers, you don't want them to have any heads up, any chance to delete evidence from their computer. Sometimes hackers have even been known to build kill switches that at the click of a button will erase everything. Such was the case with Alexander Craze, but I'll cover that story soon, so make sure you hit that big red button. So since it didn't seem like they'd ever get the opportunity to catch him outside, away from his devices, they were going to need to raid his apartment with him still in it. On the morning of July 21st, 2021, Spanish National Police finally made their move. After the months of surveillance, they bust into Joe's apartment, finding him exactly where he spent most of his time, in front of his computer. You can see in this photo that they sat him down and combed through it for evidence. As soon as she heard the news, Joe's mom took the first flight back to Spain. The following day, reporters captured her waiting outside the courthouse for Joe, where she gave this speech.
And I think that the pressure from the FBI traveling to Spain has influenced the judge in Madrid, and that shouldn't affect the judge. The judge should be looking at the evidence. He should be following the correct procedure. This is not the correct procedure. Joseph has not been given any evidence. We have no sight of the evidence. That is wrong. So we're also going to contact the lawyer of John McPhee in Madrid. So John McPhee was a citizen who was also facing extradition proceedings in June and was to be extradited to the USA, and he killed himself in prison. So I'm going to ask his lawyer in Madrid to assist Joseph. Joseph is only 22. He has never been arrested. He's never been in trouble. He has very serious health problems. He has a very serious back injury, and his doctor has said that he shouldn't travel. He shouldn't be placed on an airplane because of the damage. So we need to explore the medical reasons for him not to be extradited. We need to see the evidence. We also know that this year in England, other people in England and Scotland were arrested in respect of these proceedings, and they all were given bail, and no one has been extradited to America. And Joseph was aware of these proceedings. He stayed in Estepona. He didn't run. He didn't go to a different country. He stayed here. When the police arrested him, he said, "I'm innocent. Show me the evidence because I have no involvement."
She's a lawyer, after all, was pulling every stop to make sure her son did not get extradited to the US. But despite her best efforts, it didn't work, and Joe never even got bail. He spent 21 months in a Spanish jail, where apparently the conditions are quite rough. Come April 26, 2023, Joe was finally extradited to the US, booked into a federal detention, finally getting ready to face the very charges he once bragged he would laugh at. The US prosecution had filed 10 criminal charges against Joe, including conspiracy to commit computer intrusion, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, conspiracy to commit money laundering, and stalking of 2 victims. Whereas prosecutors were pushing for the maximum sentence. They wanted him to get 70 years. Joe's mom, Sandra, relocated to the US to be close to him to assist in his defense. By this time, Joe had already spent 2.5 years in jail waiting to be sentenced. This delay, coupled with legal expenses, placed an enormous strain on Sandra. Quote, "There will be no inheritance for Joseph and his brothers." The enormous cost of the proceedings have apparently depleted her personal savings and her ability to retire. She's already 60. Come June 2023, now 24 years old, Joe was finally set to face the judge to learn his verdict. He apologized for his deeds, telling the court, quote, "I'm sorry, my crimes were stupid and senseless. I want a life that makes sense." Despite his mom's best efforts, the judge handed down a 5-year prison term to be served in a US federal prison. On top of this, Joe agreed in his plea to pay back at least $794,000 to the Manhattan-based crypto company and $120,000 to other victims he stole from. But the counsel of these victims is now seeking a total restitution closer to $2 million, arguing that they paid a bunch of money out in legal fees to fight the case, their clients sued them for a bunch of money, but an exact resolution on this hasn't made yet. Either way, Joe owes a ton of money. Bella Thorne was also quick to express her satisfaction on social media, saying she felt vindicated by the final sentence and thanked the FBI for their hard work. Meanwhile, the communities where Joe once thrived, they continue to be doing the same thing they're always doing. As you know, hackers went on this big swatting campaign just a year after his arrest, and then they're talking to Aiden Ross after, saying things like "Free Plug Walk Joe." He's infamous within these communities. To this day, everyone that I reached out to speak about Joe in this video declined voice interviews because they're afraid of what the people who knew Joe might do to them as retaliation, even though he's been locked away for the better part of 3.5 years. And despite these people saying "Free Joe," I think his mom is the only one that really means it. She's now pushing for a compassionate release. Had this huge document written up, which I used a ton in this video, arguing Joe has already done enough time, that he's not at risk to reoffend, that he's changed and he had made mistakes, but he acknowledges them. She's even secured a job as a web developer for him upon his release, and has compiled numerous testimonies from family members and people who Joe was incarcerated with, attesting to his change in character. A decision has yet to be made on this though, and it's likely Joe's gonna be actually released before a judge even looks at it.
Alright, yo, I'm gonna hit you, gang. I love you.
Love you too. Bye, chat. Love you guys. In a bit.